Doug, 2 days ago, it was so nice outside. It was 60s, 70s for some people. Now it's just plain cold. So how should we be dressing as we head out the door?
It was really warm all of the entire week until we got into yesterday with that cold front pushing through in the morning. Now here comes the cold weather for this morning. 3 below in Topeka. These are wind chill values, by the way. 8 below in Des Moines and Minneapolis. 15 below in Bismarck. And the 30s indicated by the darker blue is extending all the way down to the south and portions of the Midwest and Gulf Coast states as well. So this cold air mass is extending almost for much of the country. Now the good news is it is short-lived, but we still have to deal with one more day and one more night tonight before we start to warm back up. Meanwhile, we have clear skies across the area and Capital Federal Live Storm Tracker, which will lead to lots of sunshine, but still want to be mindful out on the roadways. Of course, yesterday's light snow that pushed through the area produced a few slick spots, and that continues to be the case this morning too. So just be aware of that as you're heading out and about, especially on some of the sidewalks, parking lots. Main roads for the most part should be okay, but you still want to be cautious of that, especially on bridges and overpasses. Low to mid-teens right now, temperature-wise, and wind chill values below 0 for most. 3 below in Topeka and Burlington, 2 below in Emporia, and even 6 below in Sabetha. Meanwhile, yesterday, high temperatures were in the 50s and 60s and occurred before sunrise, but by this time yesterday, we started to usher in the colder air up in north central Kansas and then continue to get colder throughout the morning, where most spots were in the 20s and 30s by 10 a.m. And then by 3 o'clock, when we would typically reach our high temperatures for the day, it's in the upper teens and low 20s. So at least today is going to be a little bit warmer, but still cold, more in the upper 20s and low 30s possible. Lots of sunshine and not as windy as yesterday either. Northwest wind gusting around 30 miles per hour for today. We'll talk more about the warm up that we'll have starting tomorrow and how warm the rest of the week will be and if there's any precipitation coming up. All right, waking up to frigid temperatures early this morning, 13 right now in Topeka, but with a 16-mile-per-hour wind, it feels like 3 below. We have temperatures that are in the low to mid-teens for the rest of northeast Kansas, and wind chills below 0 for most areas. 5 below in Sabetha and Marysville, 0 in Concordia, and 3 below in Burlington. So make sure you are bundled up early this morning. It is going to be our coldest morning of the week, which is good news. Otherwise, after a very windy day yesterday, wind gusts 45 to 55 miles per hour for many spots. We'll at least have a little bit lighter winds today. It will still stay breezy, and with the cold temperatures that we'll have today, it is going to still feel on the cold side. Northwesterly winds this morning at about 25 to 30 miles per hour for much of the morning hours, and then closer to 20 to 25 miles per hour by the afternoon before winds finally weaken heading into this evening, especially once the sun goes down. Last week we had highs in the 60s every day. It was a very warm week. It was a very nice Saturday before things got much colder yesterday. This week we'll have cooler temperatures, but we'll have a couple of nice days after today's upper 20s, and it's going to feel real nice tomorrow into Wednesday with upper 40s and low 50s before it gets a little bit cooler on Thursday and Friday to begin the new year, and more in the low 40s before warming back up Saturday into Sunday. Satellite radar composite shows the storm system that brought us the light snow and the strong winds yesterday pushing across the eastern half of the country, and we have the clear skies here in northeast Kansas, which will continue through tomorrow morning. Very little, if any, cloud cover at all. There may be a few mid to high level clouds that may make its way into the area tomorrow afternoon, so that's why I'm going mostly sunny, but sunshine does return with almost cloud-free conditions heading into Wednesday and the final day of the year and our warmest day of the week. So today, Wednesday and Sunday are going to be our 2 milder days in the 50s, so not quite to the 60s and 70s we had last week, but those are going to be the relatively nicer days. And after the teens again tonight, but with lighter wind, so not as cold for wind chill values, will be in the 20s for the rest of the week. If you're going to be out and about on New Year's Eve, midnight temperature, these are wind chills, by the way, low 20s up along the Nebraska-Kansas border, mid-30s down to the south. And then for Thursday on New Year's Day, morning wind chill values will be in the upper teens and low 20s. So certainly not terrible for this time of year, but it is certainly going to be a bit on the chilly side. So make sure that you have those layers if you're going to be out and about Wednesday night.
This is 13 News First Alert Weather.
All right, taking a look at our rainfall or precipitation in general for the next 7 days. Well, it's not going to be anywhere close to us. We're going to continue to stay dry. Now, we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. It was almost showing this earlier last week where we had that snow yesterday that wasn't really picking up on models earlier in the week. But I really don't think we're going to get much in the way of precipitation as we get closer towards early January and then it's next couple of days. So as far as monthly precipitation this month, it hasn't been a lot. We are still way behind for the month. It's going to continue to stay behind that. So we are going to expect dry conditions for these next 3 days to wrap up the month. Now, as we get towards the first week of January and closer to the second week, we have wetter than normal conditions for the western 2/3 of the state. So that'll be something that we'll certainly be keeping an eye on for the January 5th through the 11th time period. Temperature-wise, very cold today and tonight. Otherwise, after that, we're warming back up near or slightly above average for this time of year for both the lows and the highs, and that trend's going to continue for the 5th through the 11th with probability of above average temperatures overall. So we just have a few opportunities of some colder air. Of course, we had yesterday with that colder air making its way into the area, and it stays cold today into tonight before temperatures stay more consistent in the 40s and even some 50s for highs and lows in the 20s the rest of the week.